So we are filming this on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you. And in honor of Valentine's Day, I would like to give a little bit of love to our listeners. Thank you so much for listening to us. We appreciate it more than you know. All 12 of you. Just kidding.
It's not the quantity, it's the quality. So thank you for our quality fans.
Yeah. And I think that today is going to be a really good topic having to do with Valentine's Day.
Yes, yes. In honor of Valentine's, how about talk about the first-time home buyers?
The sweet innocent.
Yes, first time.
I think that's shop. Yeah, it's great. Let's chat about that. Carla.
And I'm Crystal.
And we're real estate agents in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Welcome to our show.
You are interested in real estate, behind the scenes of real estate, maybe if you're looking to buy or sell a home or have ever owned a home. I think that you'll find something interesting in this show for you.
Absolutely.
So right now, I am working with a first-time home buyer, which is a unique situation for me because I don't typically work with first-time home buyers. I really had to go back a little bit and remember what it's like to work with someone who doesn't know any of the processes, who's never been through that at all. How's that when you're doing, because you do work with more first-time home buyers.
Yes, yes. It is true that you do have to start from the very beginning, from the basics. But I do find, so it's, even for me, after doing this for so long, sometimes I forget some of the basics, that I have to always start at the very beginning of the process. Some of the simplest things. I just get so used to the process that I forget to explain things at the beginner steps.
Yeah, I think most people don't realize that the very first step in a first-time home buyer's process is to speak with a lender.
That's right.
And for most people, that is a really scary, even talking to us for the first time is really scary for them. Like, I don't think of us in this light that where it would be uncomfortable to talk to me or you. We're really friendly.
Right.
But I'm imagining my daughter, who was really proud of herself for making a doctor's appointment on her own, that to have to call a mortgage lender or a real estate agent and advocate for this thing that you don't know how it's supposed to work, how terrifying that might be.
That's right. That's right. And for the younger folks today, they have different experience even with banks. Their banking experience it was completely different than what we grew up with. So we were comfortable going into the bank and we knew the people that worked at the bank. That's not what you do to get qualified.
Yeah. Well, just the whole process with the bank. Remember your recent young people, they had a big ordeal, and my daughter also had this similar ordeal recently because they don't have
checks. No checks.
I had no idea this was like wave of the future. I in high school had to learn in a class how to write a check.
Yes. And
how to keep a ledger in your checkbook, the little thing that folds open so you can know where you spent your money and balance your checkbook at the end of the month. That is not a thing.
That's right. Well, this was very recent. My last transaction, it just closed last Friday. First-time home buyer, and she had to get money orders for her due diligence and earnest money deposits. And of course, she had no experience getting money orders. And she went to Western Union somewhere and got the money orders, didn't know how to fill them out, and then filled them out wrong. You wrote one to the one that's supposed to go to the attorney. She put the wrong names on them. Then we found out that that's quite an ordeal to change those. So that took us about 2.5 weeks to correct.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter went to get a wire. No, it wasn't a wire transfer. I think actually it was a money order as well to pay for a deposit, and she called me to ask me how to do it, thinking that I would be able to help, and I was of zero assistance. I had to look it up on YouTube. So I was in there looking up how to do a money order, like just whose names you put where and what has to be signed. It was an ordeal, and I feel like that is a perfect example of the entire process.
Exactly. Well, when we got to the end of the process and it came time for her to wire money, I called and gave her the warning about fraud, and I said, just make sure you don't wire any money unless you talk to me personally, and the lender, she's going to call you personally. And my client said, I cannot even fill out a money order. I'm not going to attempt to wire money without you with me at the bank. So I did end up going with her to the bank.
You did have to go to the bank to make sure that was done properly.
She just was a little scared.
I think also, like in this process for these first-time home buyers, and I know it will be me, so I apologize up front. It is extra hard because you are usually also working with a first-time home buyer's parents.
Yes.
And they have many different experiences, and they may know what they're talking about a lot, or they may know nothing about what they're talking about in today's real estate world, or even in the state that you live in, but they're uber eager to help.
Right. They want to look out and make sure that things go well for their child. Just like whenever our daughters try to buy a car or go to have their oil changed, we're always, give this list of things that you need to make sure that you do and be careful of and be cautious. And the parents of our clients are there doing that.
But it's a fine line because you really want the buyer to have a chance to experience this process. This is their process, and they are the client. I need to do what they want, and I need to give them the option sometimes that they don't have, that mom and dad might not know exactly what they're talking about without saying they don't know what they're talking about, and just guiding them. But I do want them to have that process because I think they learn so much during the real estate process.
That's right. And it's one of the first times that they get to really make their own decisions, and they're big decisions.
And big investments. It is the biggest investment that they will have for a very long time.
Yes.
And I think that just giving them the chance even to learn about the home inspection so that they know about home maintenance and what the cost of certain items are to maintain and what it will cost to get those fixed versus fixing them later, or even the negotiation process.
Right.
That is a huge learning point for them to know that we give and take, why we give and take, where we should give and take.
Well, one thing that's probably different from that you don't experience a lot is with first-time home buyers, people, they've saved money for a few years. It's really hard, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But they just, some of the home inspections think that they have to spend money on up front. It's really hard for them to make those decisions to spend that money. The one that I just recently closed, money was tight. She saved and saved and saved for a couple years to try to get enough money for her down payment. And she did not want to do home inspections. She was like, oh man, everything was, how much is it? You don't experience that. How much is it? So much. It's because there is not that extra money.
Yeah. It's not quite so tight.
That's right. It was tight. The kind of house and the price range that we were buying, that was even more important to spend that money and get those inspections. She did get everything done. She got a home inspection. She got a termite inspection. She did not get a survey. Those kind of things like. And she is planning on putting up a fence, and she wants to gravel the driveway. The things that you need a survey before you do. She went ahead and spent the money and got the home inspection, termite inspection. And when it was all over with, she said, "I'm so glad I spent that money. I'm so glad I spent that money." She got that money back in unknown discoveries that the seller ended up paying for, which cost way more than those inspections.
Because imagine getting into your home money's tight at first when you get into a home because you've just shelled out a lot of expenses. You might need furnishings, you put down deposits for utilities. There's certain things that you need when you get your first home. And now to have a big maintenance item come up that you didn't anticipate.
Right.
Because I feel like that's in general one of the things that people, and especially new home buyers, first time home buyers, forget how much maintenance on a house costs. Like not just even repairing things, but just maintaining them.
Right.
And that what you don't maintain will be so costly later. And when you're making your budget, that you have to have a budgeted line item for that, for those things.
Right. If the stove breaks, or there's a leak in the toilet, or
servicing your HVAC
Yes.
system once a year. Or I just found out today, which I had no idea. Maybe you know, but I did not know. If you have a tankless hot water heater, did you know there's a service that you're supposed to do like once a year on that? I didn't either. Now apparently there's a YouTube video. It tells you like what to do and how to descale and do some service to it. But I've had my unit for like 5 years. I'm like, I was supposed to service it?
yes.
Okay. I need to watch the YouTube video because I want to feel like I see if I can do it first. But yeah, learning about those things that you can do. And luckily there is a YouTube video for everything nowadays. But just, it's a lot to learn. You know, I made a video recently for my daughter about like how to actually clean a bathroom. Because I feel like
I would like to see that.
yeah, it's it's entertaining and very bad film quality as I try to hold a phone and also scrub a toilet.
Yes, that's a must. It's a must do.
Yeah, speaking about this whole
Yeah.
experience of first-time home buyers, I think what we've really learned is how difficult it is to even become a first-time home buyer if you are a young, let's see, what are they called? They are Gen Zers and millennials. Those are the people that are kind of those first-time home buyers.
Yes, last week we got a suggestion from my 32-year-old daughter that said, "What you talk about my age group that we fear that we will never be able to buy a house."
And I did start thinking about that and started doing some research. So I was like, it's impossible. These are like, they're smart kids. They're college graduates. They have decent jobs.
Yep.
I'll use my daughter and I'll give a range because maybe she doesn't want me sharing all of her salary out there. But we'll just say she's making between like 45 and 50,000, which this is her first job out of college. If somebody told me I was going to make $45,000 to $50,000 right out of college, I would have been like
Yes.
that is not what I was making my first years in working. I think I was probably making like $18,000 and thought that was a lot. But when you break that down,
Yes.
you find out really quickly how far that doesn't go.
Right, and we're looking at the properties available and what price range house you would have to find to have a payment that you could afford with that kind of salary. And what you found is in this area.
Well, I don't even know if there's that many jobs paying this, but the thing my daughter had sent me said that many of this age group would feel that they needed to at least earn $75,000 before they could afford a house. And so then we started breaking that $75,000 down backwards to see what does that actually afford you.
Right.
Because the lender wants you to have a certain debt to income ratio. So that's going to include things like your car payment and your student loans and any other credit cards that you might have had. And so then at a best case scenario for me that I found was like your housing allowance was basically roughly $2,500 a month, you know, obviously depending on down payment, credit score, interest rates, but it roughly gave you $2,500 a month to spend that could be, and that is what, you know, impacts the cost of the house.
Right.
But in today's world, where we at, like currently in 2024, that basically got you how much house?
Around 300,000, and that includes taxes and insurance. Because we wanted to factor that in because taxes are pretty steep.
And I think people don't even realize that those are things to consider. Like you have your taxes, you have your homeowner's insurance, you may have a homeowners association,
Right.
and depending on how much money you put down, you will also have your
Private mortgage, PMI.
your PMI. Yes. And so now we're at $300,000 on a house. In the Mooresville area, I checked today, there are 28 active homes under 350. I didn't even go down to 300, but I think it would be
Even less.
so many less. And
Yeah.
6 of those aren't even built yet. They're like new construction or proposed homes. And so it is so competitive and difficult in that price point that like you cannot afford to not have a good advocate working for you.
Right, right. We are still getting them done in this. And when I say this market, I mean the last 3 years since 2020. We're still getting them done, but they take a long time to find a house and to get one that works.
How long did it take you to find that last house?
The one that we just closed, I've been working with her for about a year.
Mm-hmm. And the one that I'm closing on in just a few weeks, we started the process maybe August of last year and ended up doing a new construction build that was pretty much already planned. It actually was a very good thing because they had some incentives going on, but there were no choices that you could make. It came exactly as it was shown. So, because that is the thing that gets out of control in new construction. They woo you in with the like low price, and then they flash like, oh, well, did you want this gorgeous marble, or would you?
Here's some upgrades.
Yeah, or did you want this cardboard for your countertop?
Yes.
I mean, it feels like that. Like you're like,
Yeah.
for standard, you get this cardboard countertop.
Yeah.
But if you'd like to upgrade to this marble, it's only.
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of the Ginsu knife commercials.
That's right.
For $19.99, you too can have a house.
Did you want doors on your house?
Oh.
You didn't mention the doors.
Okay, we'll throw those in.
Yeah. The one that I just finished, we were under 200,000.
Oh goodness.
Yes.
That
So
is-
it wasn't like we had a lot of options. That's what part of the reason it took so long is every time a house came on the market in that price range, and we were looking at all surrounding areas. We had to go out from this area and far away from where she works, within a 30, 40-minute drive. If it met the qualifications, minimal qualifications, then we would go look at it. But there weren't that many. It's not like we looked at 75 houses. We looked at every one that was a possibility in a year, and that may have been 11 or 12.
So saying that, and the difficulties, and the cost, do you still recommend homeownership for these, we'll say, 24 to 34-year-olds over renting?
Absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
honestly, they're going to be paying, it's over $2,000 a month to rent maybe a 2-bedroom. So you would have no chance. When I did that 75,000 and worked backwards, it basically gave somebody $600 a month to save after rent and groceries and regular payments. I don't even know that there was much I factored in for fun. There was not very, I think I arranged for like one date night. You could have one date. So I feel like it would take you so long to even save up that way. I mean, either way, it's going to take a long time to save up, but you have to like start that process.
Well, and you just have to be willing to, for this young woman, she was just willing to start really small. I mean, just to go far away from work, to have a fixer-upper, to have 700 square feet, to have, I'm going to throw in an actual characteristic. Her laundry room is outside. I mean, it was an older house that didn't have a laundry room. They added one, and you have to go out the back door and into an exterior room to do laundry. Most people would say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. But she was willing to accept what she could get for her, what ended up to be an $800 and some, or right around $1,000 house payment. And to her, she was like, so she's paying $1,600 a month rent right now. So she could not wait to have the opportunity in an area where things are getting fixed up and growing. So
And it's hers.
That's right.
She owns it. No one, as long as she makes the payment, no one can raise her amount. No one can tell her, that she has to leave at a moment's notice. And I will say that home ownership is the best way for generational wealth to be acquired.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like it at first because you have to start somewhere. Now, I caution people to say like, oh, well, I'm just going to be here 2 years because the market can change. It's cyclical. It goes up and down about every 8 years. So I always say, but could you stay here longer? Could you stay here 5 years or 7 years if you had to? Because if you can't do that, it's probably not the right place. But if you could make those sacrifices just to get into your first home, there is a home past that.
Yes, and one of the points that she made was that this is something that's reasonable that she could keep as a rental for her whole life.
That is one thing. If you ask me one day, if you ask me what is the one thing that I wish that we had done, it was to have kept our first home as an investment property. Yeah. I don't know if at the time, I think we could have done it. I think if we had made different decisions for our second home, we could have afforded to keep our first home. Maybe not made such a jump from the first to second home, maybe found something that was just a little bit better. And then, down the road again, tried something. But to have had that rental all these years or that investment, that $100,000 house that we started with is now maybe, I think I looked it up not too long ago, and it was like $520,000. And I was like, why do we? But you only know, you can only do what you can do, but yeah.
So what advice would you give for those people out there that are worried and think, what advice would you give for them right now? What should they do? Should they just forget about it for a few years?
No, they should get with a partner. And when I say partner, I mean like a partner as in a real estate agent who can help starting just fitting all the pieces together and making a plan. Because when you have like step 1, step 2, step 3, it's doable. You just have to take each step. Like your credit might be awful right now, but that too is a stepped plan that between the real estate agent and your lender, there's a plan to get that in order. And so that you know what the goal is that you're reaching. When you're just out there guessing on your own, you don't even know where the goalpost is.
Right. And there are lenders I highly recommend several lenders that will stick with you if it's in 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years. They will just be your partner in helping you prepare. And the same with us. If you need to work with a real estate agent that's not going to rush you to hurry up and buy a house. It's going to work with you on that plan. If it takes, 6 months, a year, a couple of years.
I will say that's one thing about both of us. I feel like we really invest in our clients. Like they become we become the protectors of them. Sometimes even more so than we should be. We're overprotective sometimes, but we do tend to think of our clients as like the shield we want to put around them to protect them and guide them. No, don't do that. I know you want to do that, but let me tell you why you maybe should or shouldn't do that.
Right. We need to make sure that they know all the options.
I like educating first-time home buyers as far in advance as I could. Like, honestly, my kids know so much because we've been talking about it their whole life. Like they don't know anything, but like they could tell somebody what due diligence is and what earnest money is and why it's important to pay these certain, like they know stuff, but they know stuff because they're in my house. And when they'll just have conversations with a friend and they're like, you need to call my mom because that's not right. Like you need to ask somebody about that.
What do you mean you're not going to get a home inspection? I think you need to call my mom.
Yeah. I think, and a lot of young people are finding that in order to make this process doable, they're buying homes together. Like these aren't married couples. Like back in our day, generally, you usually got married, you'd rented for a while, and then you bought a home together.
Right.
And I'm finding more and more, both new home buyers that I am working with right now, they are both with a significant other. One is getting married like a month after we close on the house. The other one has plans to get married maybe 6 months to a year down the road, but they're buying homes before they're married. And in some of the cases, it's one person putting in more money than the other one, like, because one person maybe has the job and the other one is still maybe in grad school or something like that. And that's also a really interesting topic, especially here in North Carolina.
Yes, yes. I have similar situations where sometimes it's boyfriend or girlfriend. Sometimes they want to be on the loan together, meaning they borrow money jointly. And sometimes they want to be on the house together, meaning on the deed, like a title to a car where both names are on the deed, but maybe only one of them is on the loan because say one of them's still in school and only one of them has a job. And this is not legal advice.
Yes.
Not legal
Just
advice.
What we've seen.
That's right. So you could speak with the attorney about all the
different ways that you can title a home.
Right. And the risk.
Protections and risks.
And the risk. Yes.
Yes, but I do find that most people don't know that in North Carolina, let's say I have a home by myself. I'm doing well enough to afford a home all on my own, and I get married. If I didn't change anything with the title, my now spouse owns 50% of that home with me. And if I go to sell that home, we both have to agree to sell the home, even though I bought the home.
Right, right. There's a lot of issues when there's a divorce or a breakup, whenever the house is titled in one or the other names, or when you get married, then that other spouse now has to sign.
And that's another good reason why, if you're looking to speak with an agent first, and I feel like people sometimes are scared to have these conversations with the person they're going to spend the rest of their life with. I go, this is the easiest conversation we're going to have, is when it talks about money and how we're going to title our house and who's really putting more into it. It doesn't have to be a big secret taboo topic. We can just talk about the facts.
Yes, that's right. And didn't you have someone recently ask you those questions?
Yeah, they were saying well, what would, my son is, again, it was a parent. Yes. To be protected.
All in a circle.
My son is about to purchase or wants to start looking for a home, but he's going to be putting all the money up front. So if anything happened, he would own more of it, right? And I'm like, no. Once they get married, that home becomes both of theirs 50-50, unless they've made some other sort of arrangement prior to that, whether it's a prenuptial agreement or some type of how they've titled the home. But yeah, in North Carolina, we are a 50-50 state. And
yeah, and it's also a little complicated. Complicated?
It is complicated. It can get complicated unless you have those talks first. Yeah. I think we've changed up our format a little bit for the show, because one thing that we realized was that while it was great that we were surprising each other with these fabulous topics, we didn't have time to research them to fully give a really good
information.
Yes. That we thought was missing and that we could deep dive. One thing that we're doing now is, while we are saying the topic, we're not really talking that much about the topic, just briefly, so that we're each kind of researching it in different avenues to be able to provide a resource to you. I did find a really great resource for home ownership, and it was through NerdWallet. They had a calculator that basically helped you decide how much home you could afford, and it had a scale, so you could go affordable, stretch, or aggressive.
Right. I just think you should always be in a position where you can afford an emergency. There's always going to be something.
I agree. I think that I like our deep dive into the topics. Do you like this?
I like it.
If you like the deep dive into the topics and have a topic that you would like us to explore, we would absolutely love to hear about it. If you preferred our surprise adventures before, let us know. We can throw that back in there. But we just hope that you will continue to tune in and like and subscribe our channel so that you can know when new topics are out.
Yes. Thanks.
All right.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you.